I am vengeance. 2 years of night have turned me into a nocturnal animal. Fear is a tool. They think I'm hiding in the shadows. But I am the shadows. This thing makes my eye look really twitchy. So I look like Robert Pattinson in the film. You know, his acting eye. Okay, I'm gonna take this thing off now because it hinders my sight. I can't see. No, my secret identity has been revealed. Alright, that's better. Hi there, welcome back to my channel, and for this month, to celebrate my semi-annual rewatch of 2022's The Batman, I have decided to read all of the graphic novels that inspired the film, as well as reading all of the tie-in books that came along with the release of the film. And what better time to do a rewatch of The Batman than the Halloween season? The film does take place, well, at least it starts on Halloween night, so perfect timing. So to give a bit of a mini introduction, The Batman was a 2022 film starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Andy Serkis, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, and Colin Farrell. It is year 2 of Batman being the Batman, and he has to solve a serial killer mystery led by the Riddler. There are other characters involved, including Catwoman and the Penguin, and Batman has to solve all of these issues that are connected to the mob and the election of the new mayor. So I saw The Batman March of 2022, a bit later in the month than the film's initial release, and since then I've watched it now 5 times. This is one of my favorite films of all time now, and it helped jumpstart me and my siblings' love for Batman and Batman-related content. As you know, this year I've now really delved into reading different Batman graphic novels, watching a lot of TV shows and films based on Batman or adjacent to the Batman, and I've had a wonderful year so far. All of my favorites this year are going to be Batman related, I think. So this just goes to show how good this film is. This film is excellent. Written and directed by Matt Reeves, this is a masterpiece of Batman filmmaking. This is better than every single live action Batman film. You can fight me and I will win. I don't give a crap about Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan's little action movies. Those are good action movies. Are they good Batman films? No. So you can take your shitty little opinion and shove it so far. So anyway, to celebrate the fun in rewatching the film, I have read 3 graphic novels that the movie is inspired by, as well as 2 other books that were based upon the release of The Batman. I will be inserting little vlog clips of me as I was reading all of these books, but for our sit down, I will discuss things that I missed in those clips. So the first graphic novel that I read was Batman Year 1 by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. This was released in the late 80s. This is essentially like a reboot of Batman's origin story because, of course, that story has been told starting in, I believe, the 40s and continuing on into the 80s. So this is just a succinct little reboot about the origins of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman, of Jim Gordon eventually making his way into becoming commissioner, and the rise of certain villains, including the mob. Hello! We are at our first mini update on what I am reading for the vlog. So we are a few days into the month. I've already read 2 of the graphic novels that have been suggested I read in order to better understand the Batman. So the first one is Batman Year 1 by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli with Richmond Lewis. So this story is pretty short and sweet. It's basically the sort of origins of Batman and really the origins of Jim Gordon. A lot of this thing is based on the fact that Jim Gordon is cheating on his pregnant wife with one of his co-workers, and there's also just this mini plot going on. It's pretty mob heavy and not too specific. I found it a little bit boring, but there are a lot of elements in here that are clearly put into the Batman film, especially Selina's look in this comic. Like, tell me that isn't Zoe Kravitz, honestly. Her helping out people, her being connected to sex work, and the diary sort of entries that Batman is narrating with. He narrates in his own handwriting, so that element is added into the film as well. Also, it is cool to note the importance of dates in this graphic novel as well as the other one that I read. So ultimately, this one was a bit too short to have any real meat in it, but I can definitely see a lot of the influence that this had on the film, and I am glad to have read it. So overall, this was a pretty good introduction into Batman's origins, and also being a dual tale showing Jim joining the Gotham police force and realizing how corrupt the whole system is, and why it's necessary to bring in Batman eventually as his ally. This is a very short and sweet graphic novel. I think it tells its story very well, all very well put together, and I believe this graphic novel was a huge visual inspiration and tonal inspiration for the Batman film. The tone of the graphic novel is very noir, and a lot of the visuals you can just definitely see were inspiration for the film. One such example, like, look at these colors, look at these shot compositions. Everything here was just likely a huge inspiration for the film. Bruce's narration also comes to us in the form of journal writing, which is how the beginning of the film is set up, and there's also a lot of visual ideas in here that really inspired the film, especially Catwoman and all of her looks and her backstory, even the look of her apartment, all incredibly similar to this graphic novel. Plus the idea of Bruce Wayne, his identity as the Drifter, that being an in-between to his superhero persona and his public persona, just being a guy dressed in regular clothing making his way through the city undetected, essentially. And as I said, the huge storyline of the mob, the mafia, being introduced in the city, being like the underlying controllers, as well as showing how ultimately corrupt the systems that are meant to solve Gotham's problems are, that being the police force, any programs to help, any money put into the city is ultimately used by the criminals against it. So it was a pretty good origin story, and it helps with the origin story that is the Batman. The next graphic novels that I read for this video are The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, its sequel, by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. And the second graphic novel that I have read is Batman The Long Halloween by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. This is one of those giant event stories where there's tons of Batman villains in here. We've got the Scarecrow, we've got the Mad Hatter, we've got the Joker, we've got Poison Ivy, we've got Solomon Grundy of all people, we've got Calendar Man, and then in the end we get Two-Face. This is the origin story of Two-Face, Harvey Dent, and how they are trying to stop a serial killer named Holiday as they are making their way through killing various members of the rivaling mob families, that being the Maroonis and the Falcones. I was way more interested in this story. I feel that it was a better executed story, especially since they had all of this time, all of these pages to do it properly. I really enjoyed the sort of mystery aspect and the serial killer isms of leaving holiday-themed items by the bodies and figuring out who the killer was. Very, very interesting stuff. They utilized all of the villains well. I wasn't like, why the hell are they here? I was like, oh neat, they're here. So it was just cool to see everybody and how everything connected. And it was cool to see Batman be slightly clouded in judgment in figuring out who the killer is, seeing their minds change, seeing their priorities change. Very interesting stuff. I can see a lot of influence that this had on the Batman film, especially Gordon and Batman working together to catch a themed serial killer. In the film, they changed it to the Riddler, And all the connections with the mob were very, very well done, and I can definitely see that influence of the connections to the mob in the film. I'm surprised the Penguin wasn't involved in this story, though, because he has such a big involvement in the film. And once again, dates are important in this one, this being Long Halloween. The killings start on Halloween and end around the next Halloween, like the whole year. So dates are very important in this one as well. There isn't a lot in this graphic novel that visually connects to the Batman. They are pretty different, but I think the tone is sort of the same, like that noir tone, the mystery tone, the sort of bleakness of everything, that translates into the film as well. So I can definitely see this book as well being a huge influence, but I'm glad that the film didn't really just do a direct adaptation of one graphic novel. They mixed a whole bunch of stuff into the film, and it is just so quintessentially Batman. It's its own thing, even though we've sort of seen this story before, him solving a mystery and stuff, and I really, really enjoy that aspect. So it's cool to see where they gain their influence from. I also noticed The Dark Knight takes a lot from this book, where it's like Harvey Dent trying to help with one of the cases. In the Dark Knight, it's the Joker, but him being so obsessive and ultimately turning into Two-Face, I can see a lot of the influence of The Long Halloween on The Dark Knight, even though the Dark Knight trilogy claims to not, do too much comic-y stuff, but I can definitely see that someone read this involved in the writing process. So, yeah. Look forward to me. I think I have to read Dark Victory next, and then we'll see what else I should read before I tackle the direct film adaptation script and art book. So see you soon. Now, fun fact about this that I didn't know until reading the other material is that Matt Reeves is one of his mentors when he was in film school and in writing and studying and was encouraged to become a director and writer. Jeph Loeb. That is incredibly cool. So no wonder he took this book and the sequel book essentially as a Bible for his film. So these two stories are ultimately more of a writing guide for the film, writing inspiration. There are plenty of similarities, details that are put into the film just so smoothly, and I really enjoyed the storytelling of both the graphic novel and the film. So for the similar storytelling, Batman in this graphic novel has to solve a serial killer case fit with a bunch of clues that he has to follow, this one being the holiday killer. And also there is a lot of times where he is assuming one person is the killer and he turns out to be wrong, or he has pieces of the clues that are wrong, and there are consequences of that. Just like in the film, Batman may be the world's greatest detective, but there are a few times he misses the point or he gets the point wrong and it's too late to fix anything. I love that. Please give me a journey in his detective work. It's amazing. This graphic novel also has a lot of details that are thrown into the film. That includes the film starting on Halloween, when this graphic novel starts on Halloween with the first kill. This almost shot-for-shot scene of both the bat and the cat sneaking into a safe to get the same thing. And also the story of Carmine Falcone being brought to Thomas Wayne's house and getting medically worked on after getting shot, and Bruce seeing all of it from upstairs on the banister. Incredible details and storytelling, tells you a whole lot about what's going on in Gotham and in the story. I just think that these were incredibly well done graphic novels. I'm talking less about Dark Victory because it's exactly the same story, just continuing on. Not just the Joker shirt. Ripping the J-Man. I've also got Batman on my scrunchie. I don't know if you could even see that. This is my update to say that I have completed Batman Dark Victory by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, the same people who also did Batman The Long Halloween. Dark Victory is a continuation of what happened in The Long Halloween, that being Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent, and Batman were solving the case of the holiday serial killer. This one is taking on the mob families as a result of what happened in The Long Halloween, and how Batman is dealing with the loss of Harvey Dent and the rise of Two-Face and the Rogues Gallery in Gotham, as well as the introduction of little Robin, little Dick Grayson. So I have similar feelings to this one that I did to The Long Halloween, since it's basically like its companion, its sequel. I can definitely see all of the allusions to the Batman in here, all the influences. And this one was just a little bit more boring to read, since the Hangman killer wasn't as exciting as the Holiday killer to me. I just liked that gimmick a bit better. But I absolutely adored the introduction of Robin. I adored the parallels between Alfred trying to help Bruce and trying to help Dick, and finally knowing what to say to him. I think all the Robin introduction stuff was my favorite part. It was really, really cute. And I think that this was a good continuation of the Long Halloween's sort of plotline and development of the Dark Knight, and eventually Robin as well. And also, you can't go wrong with all the Catwoman stuff. I love Catwoman and Batman's dynamic so much. It's my favorite thing to read. It's what I loved reading in Hush and Heart of Hush, and it's what I like in The Batman. It's what I like in Batman the Animated Series. They're just a good, cool dynamic. I believe this is all the comics that I have to read that inspired the Batman film. These are my thoughts. Initially, I did like it. It just felt more of a chore to read than The Long Halloween, but this was pretty good. So reading them both was really, really good. I liked the full, complete story. And I caught a bit less details going on in it, but all of the connections to the mob, to the Maronis, to the Falcones, all within the film as well. It was a lesser sequel in my eyes, but like I said in my vlog, I loved seeing the introduction of Robin, and I hope that the Batman series will soon incorporate Robin into their storytelling. And as for the books that were published to tie into the film's release, I have The Art of the Batman by James Field with a foreword by Matt Reeves, and Batman the Official Scriptbook by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. The script book is pretty self-explanatory. It was the shooting script for the film, but it also has a lot of little details that either didn't make it into the film or just things that I missed. For example, it has the deleted scene with the Joker in the interrogation room and Batman brings him the Riddler's first note and questions him, but also there are small line details that didn't make it into the film. My favorite one that I noticed being Jim Gordon gets a phone call from Batman asking him to meet him somewhere, and Jim has to pretend that it's his daughter on the phone, so he mentions Barbara. Very interesting detail that I am sad to see the film didn't include. So ultimately, not too much to add when I was reading the script. Just a great script. I had so much fun reading it. All the details in here were incredible, and I really, really enjoyed it, of course. And then finally, I read the art book. Just a lot of huge, glossy pages and descriptions. A lot going on. This page directly shows how they were inspired by Batman Year One and how Zoe Kravitz in particular really pushed that inspiration visually. I thought that the descriptions of the costumes were my favorite part. They talked a lot about, you know, the weapons and the batsuit and the cowl and the Batmobile and the motorcycles, and that's all well and good because they worked very, very hard on designing those and shooting them visually and having a backstory for all of that. But I liked the actual costuming. I thought that was more interesting, and the makeup that they did on Colin Farrell was also incredibly interesting to read about. It is just an incredibly beautiful book, and I'm so glad that I purchased it. All these giant, beautiful glossy pages of the set and descriptions of the special effects and what they had to do while filming amongst the pandemic, I think was incredibly interesting, and I'm so glad to know all of these facts about the film now. So that's it. This is all the material that I read in conjunction with watching and rewatching the Batman. I had so much fun doing this, and now I have way more insight for the next time that I rewatch the film. so that's the video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope everyone is enjoying the fall season and enjoying Batman season. Go read or watch something Batman related if you have seen this video. So I will see you all next time. Bye bye.